Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Nice to see you all. So I'm Sara Maggioni. I can't even spell my own name. I'm the Director of Retail and Buying at WGSN. And today I'm going to take you through some of the key trends that we are seeing for store designs and VM, which are currently impacting retail, but they are going to continue for the seasons to come. And for those of you who were here yesterday, who saw our presentation yesterday, you'll see how some of these big kind of conceptual, big overriding themes are also influencing VM and store design. So you'll see some of the same themes coming through. So, without further ado, oops, actually, guys, I don't have a clicker. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm going to start with a quote, actually a couple of quotes, which we really feel that they sum up the current state of play around consumer behavior, but also the overall mood around shopping in physical environments, so brick and mortar. So I'm going to read it. Consumers don't want to shop. They want to come away from a store feeling enriched, uplifted, and impressed. For retailers, that means creating richer experiential layers. So really, what does this mean? It means that immersion and experiences, as we know it, are more important than ever, and they're only going to grow. So how can you enrich those shoppers' experiences? Well, in order to do that, of course, you need to know what consumer cares about in 2019, and then adjust your store design accordingly. So for this year and beyond, we have some consumer priorities that we have identified. Individuality. So consumers, more and more, they increasingly want to cut through the noise and really, and more to the point, the sameness of social media. Social media has created a lot of sameness. And so they really want to kind of stand out. They're looking for spaces and places that give them that kind of different aesthetic and mood. So they really want to stand out on their social media accounts. Well-being, so the focus on wellness continues. It's across the board, so clean beauty products, wellness tourism, wellness hubs, even the cannabis market in the US is really, really growing. And that's sometimes linked to wellness, is that idea of helping with anxiety. It's actually set to reach 1 billion by 2020. And why is this happening? Because we are experiencing the worst mental health crisis in history. It's actually, that is also obviously helped or not helped by social media. And so according to Google Trends, search terms involving the word anxiety have doubled since 2015. That's why we are seeing this kind of soaring rise of the wellness market. And then finally, entertainment. So in light of the increasing digital saturation of our lives, customers are absolutely desperate. They're really craving IRL experiences. So IRL stands for in real life experiences, because it really gives them a sense to belonging. So for store design and VM, this translates to individuality, well-being, and entertainment, Instagram color, serene comfort, and interactive play. Of course, we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail. Let's start off with the first one, which is Instagrammable colors. So the mood and feel here. As I was saying, as we are valuing experiences a lot more, we are buying less. This is just a fact. I said it yesterday if you were here. We're spending a lot more money on experiences. We're spending more money on travel. We're buying less product. And so we are looking for places that are more unique and the kind of places that give us, they're visually exciting, that create memories for us. And of course, if we think about the mobile-obsessed generation, particularly millennials and Generation Z, everything is an opportunity to create content, hashtag content. It kind of becomes almost like their social currency. So it's really important for physical retail spaces to respond to that and to create spaces that they can come back to really enhance this social currency. So looking at color, Color is the quickest way to attract visual attentions and create these memorable in-store moments. I have an interesting fact for you. According to a study by the University of Winnipeg in Canada, it's a study on the impact of color in marketing. Apparently, people make up their minds within 90 seconds of their first interaction with the product. And 62 to 90% of that is purely based on color, to tell you how important color is. Color is also easily interchangeable, so it's very easy for retailers to paint walls, but also to kind of swap around furniture. And of course, as well as providing really good visual impact, so really good visual images for Instagram, etc., interesting color application can also really help to influence the customer's mood and feeling as well. So chroma is something that is really growing. If we think about the wellness market, chroma yoga in particular, this is particularly in London, the whole WGSN team is kind of addicted to it. They use light, scent, sound, and color to really tap into consumers, into certain states of mind. And so you can really see how, even though this is a wellness trend, how this can be translated into store as well. So again, think about color installation, changeable color elements, et cetera, et cetera. So it's this idea of giving customers a different experience. So it's not just about product, it's about bringing them in store. Let's take a look at some of the color applications. So we've been obsessed with millennial pink. It's been the absolute obsession for the past couple of seasons. We are moving away a little bit from it, and we're moving more towards Gen Z, so Gen Z yellow, that's how it's called. It's taking over as the zeitgeistic color of the year. It's the new millennial pink. Now, as we saw for millennial pink, Gen Z yellow isn't one shade only. It's a spectrum of colors, and we're already seeing it coming through and emerging across physical, store design and, of course, social media. Yellow is actually the first color perceived by the human retina. So that's quite important to know. Obviously, it's a really statement color, but it is the first, physiologically, genetically, is what we see first. So it's really, really attention-grabbing. I have a few examples here of different applications. We have on the right Mansell Gabriel. Mansell Gabriel is famous for their direct-to-consumer approach. They're a bag brand. And they really honed in the Instagram game. They're really good at that. And initially, it was all about millennial pink for them, and now it started to switch to Gen Z yellow. In the middle, we have Calvin Klein. So after Raf Simons signed up as a creative director, he's already gone now, but when he first signed up, obviously the whole idea was to tap into a different consumer, a more fashion-led consumer, a younger consumer, and so all their stores also reflected that with all this kind of pops of Gen Z yellow. Then bottom left, we have First Design, which is an interior agency. They designed this restaurant, and what's really interesting about it, it's this yellow storefront. It's quite a statement look, but the idea is that it looks like a single beam of light, so it illuminates the street. So again, really attention-grabbing. And then something a little bit easier is Alex Arigato on the bottom left. And it's really about using these filters on the top, using these filters, so yellow filters for windows, but also single beams of light. So again, you can really use lighting, diffuse lighting to achieve this. Chroma blur effects are very trendy at the moment. They are great visuals for your in-store interiors, particularly when used with iridescent finishes and dichroic films. Again, they give interiors a sense of light and calm, and they can really very easily and instantly transform a space. And so it's not as bold, it's not a statement as Gen Z yellow, but it's a really effective way to create the same effect, but in a much more subtle way, a little bit more sophisticated, especially for the older demographic as well. And then color blocking. Color blocking is really effective for either highlighting specific product areas, dividing up the space, or even helping consumers navigate the stores. So again, there are very different ways. There are two-toned walls, color block carpets, seating areas or panel drapes. And it's this idea of using these playful elements. You can really play with it. Again, quite versatile components. What I think it's important to say as well, don't just jump on the bandwagon. So color is obviously really important. So it should really kind of support your brand identity rather than detract from it. So make sure you align the colors with your target market as well and your demographic. Don't jump on the Gen Z yellow bandwagon if you have a customer that is 45 plus, because it might not resonate with them in the same way. Another way to tap into it, it's to display merchandise on color-matched or even pattern-matched fixtures. So again, particularly, this tone-on-tone merchandising creates this sense of cohesiveness, almost. Particularly, it's also quite calm and it's quite tidy if it's done in these calmer shades, such as pink, soft pinks, and green mint as well. And it can work for both singular product display or mass merchandising as well. And then this is another highly Instagrammable look. It's the graduated rainbow effect. It can be worked, can be used in shops, but also around here at trade show booths. It's a really good way to do that as well. And so this works really well for ceiling installations, particularly at the entrance of the store, or even close to mirrors. So it's a really good kind of way for customers to take selfies, for the younger generation to take selfies as well. It is achievable through these hanging ribbons, perspex panels or hanging around. And again, they work better when they are against a kind of neutral or white background, so to really make the rainbow effect stand out. A couple of examples here. On the left, we have a Tudor house. It's a cult makeup brand in South Korea. They are really good, again, on their Instagram game, and you can really see here how it works, how effective, visually effective it is. And then on the bottom right, we have, that's what I was talking about, trade shows. We have Local Design Magazine's trade show booth in Mexico City. So it's this idea of using this to attract, even to liven up trade shows a little bit, so for temporary spaces as well. And now moving on to light. So this trend is all about projections of color lights to really fill the room in the same shade. It's almost about submerging the consumer. It's almost about really enveloping and with this diffused light. And so really it's about creating this immersive and mood-altering, almost like an hypnotic environment. You can decide to really either calm or energize your consumer. And again, will work really well for pop-ups or themed installations. This is clearly borrowing from the art world. I'm sure you can all recognize here Yaoi Kumasama's Infinity Room, Japanese artist, that really played with this kind of mirrored proportions and diffused lighting. But for light, if you want more of a kind of real cool, vibrant energy, we have neon flashes. So here you can really see how neon strip lighting is used to really spotlight specific fixtures in stores. It's a really fun way to do that. So it creates a really nice focal point. So you can use it to spell words, to frame plants, or to frame product. And a really good example is the Nike pop-up store here. On the right, and again, they're using both techniques. So they're using the diffuse lighting, but then again, they're using these pops, these accents, and again, the visual effect, it's really, really quite strong. And you can think about using different colors as well for a more kind of nighttime fun aesthetic, like the Prada pop-up store in Miami. And of course, you can use Instagrammable signage to draw customers in. And the next color, I talked about Gen Z yellow, I talked about millennial pink. The next color to take note of is Neo Mint. At WGSN, we've been tracking it. It's going to be one of our key colors for 2020, one of our top 5 colors for 2020. It's quite futuristic, but at the same time, it's really positive. And again, it's highly commercial, it's highly Instagrammable, and we can really see how this is going to work, not just across store design, but also across product, and of course, social media for campaigns, et cetera, et cetera. Here I've got an example. This is Medley Pharmacy in New York on the left. And Medley is actually an online app where customers can, it's an easier way to order your medicines. It's almost like a boutique way to order your medicines. And what it does with this store, so we see this calming color scheme is designed to accompany the app. So again, to really tap into that more calm mood of doing something like ordering medicine. Nobody, it's nothing that anybody particularly likes doing, but it's really bringing in that boutique effect to it through color as well. And so some of the key takeaways for this section: move on from millennial pink and start exploring Gen Z yellow, but also neomint, to really kind of offer that new sense of positivity and energy. Use color blocking really important as a way to signpost, but also for in-store navigation. Painted fixtures and walls, they are easily interchangeable, so again, they can really ensure that newness and seasonality, very easy to change them around. And use color to support your brand identity. So as I was saying before, it's really important to kind of align your color to the DNA of your brand and target the right consumer. But really, all in all, this is really about tapping into the mood-enhancing properties of color, because there are many, and look at the wellness market to that for a good example. Now, moving on to our next section, which is serene comfort. So again, looking at the mood and feel of serene comfort, this trend is very much, it's a less is more aesthetic. And it's really about reinforcing a sense of calm and also vitality at the same time. What is this driven by? As I mentioned before, it's driven by consumer demand for a more curated retail experience. People don't want, we're kind of suffering from stuffocation, so we are suffocated by stuff in this era of kind of over-consumerism and anxiety. So it's this idea of decluttering a little bit. We are also reaching a point where we are buying less but better, so we are a lot more mindful on how we spend our time and money. And so it's really key for retailers to create a wellness kind of a wellness feeling in their store environment as well, and really to help the customer distress and unwind and re-energize, so they can leave the store with this kind of really good mood. So focus on creating meditative, soothing spaces to alleviate anxiety. I talked about anxiety at the beginning, but particularly for millennials and Gen Z, this is a real problem, and so they're really craving for that. There is this kind of FOMO, fear of missing out. We don't want to miss out anything, but at the same time, we want to switch off. So it's really good to balance both. And also, this is about how we can use sound and technology to really put value on sensorial experiences. So it's this more responsible way of using technology. So technology can really help with that. I do have an example. I have a short video here. It's not about store design and it's not about VM. It's an ad, but it really taps into this idea of creating this multisensory experience. It's quite relaxing. And this is the latest ad by Michelob, which is a beer brand. And they showed it at the Super Bowl, and it stars Zoe Kravitz, Lenny Kravitz's daughter. Not that it matters, but anyway, if you recognize her. And here they really hopped on the ASMR trend. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the ASMR trend. It stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. And it's a current internet craze. It's been going around for a long time. It's not new, but it's absolutely exploding on social media at the moment, particularly with beauty bloggers. And the whole idea, that the way it is described, is it kind of creates a tingling sensation on your head. And so when you hear certain sounds or when you experience a certain stimulus, and the whole purpose of it is to soothe and comfort. It's also called brain orgasm, just to give you an idea. But I'm going to play the video so you can see for yourselves.
This place, so pure, you can feel it. This beer, so pure, you can taste it. Michelob Ultra Pure Gold. Beer in its organic form.
Borderline creepy, actually, but it's just this idea of like, at the same time, it should have this calming effect. And as I was saying, ASMR is a big trend online right now, and a lot of brands and retailers are already tapping into it. So think about how you can replicate that in store. So really, really enhance that sense of calm and relaxation. So now, looking at some of the stories, we talked about how important color is. At the other end of the spectrum, at the completely opposite end of the spectrum, it's not about these bright colors, but it's actually about this non-color, so this colorless design. It's a colorless method that they're using. And so we are seeing stores deliberately really going for this very simple and pared back look to put the attention squarely on the product. Here we have Everlane's first ever physical store in New York. So the palette is completely all white. And again, it's paired with natural materials such as oak, concrete flooring. And again, diffuse lighting is really important. And again, it's really about creating almost this blank canvas to let the product speak for itself. But at the same time, it's quite soothing. It's not minimal and very stark. And of course, breathing spaces, so cluttered and messy spaces, they can really kind of make shoppers feel quite anxious. I'm sure you've all been to stores on Saturday afternoon. Oxford Street in London, that is my biggest nightmare. It's just the idea of having everyone around, a mess everywhere, and that is really not good. That doesn't tap. Your customer will want to run away. So it's this idea of embracing simplicity and really, again, breathing, give the product plenty of breathing space. So use fixtures and props quite sparingly, and again, leave ample space between the products to, again, really leave that kind of, to create that stress-free shopping experience. One of the good examples here on the top is Arket store in London. They opened a couple of years ago now, but they kept the entire store in gray, and then they used their merchandise color really well. So again, it's very tidy. There is quite a lot of product. It's not super boutique and super minimal, but at the same time, it's this really kind of tidy environment. So you are tapping into a different consumer. Arket is an H&M brand, but they are really tapping into this kind of this consumer that values that kind of, space a lot more. And light can also be a very powerful tool to alter emotions and mood. Natural light in particular, natural light never ever fails. It's really about bringing nature in a little bit. And so natural light flowing throughout the space it really creates this soothing and calming effect, particularly for busy retail environments. Here in the middle, we have an example. It's the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. And the ceiling of the museum is perforated, so there is this sunlight coming in. And the light fragments are basically constantly changing, obviously depending on the time of the day. And so it makes the space truly meditative, and people can spend hours in it, kind of just looking at where the new lights go. And of course, this is in Abu Dhabi, so it's always hot there, so it wouldn't be as easy to replicate it in London. But it's this idea to really tap into that natural light that is important. And then extreme curation. So I was talking about this less is more mentality. Here is taken to the extremes. So we have a very minimalist product offering. Again, it's a very tightly curated selection. It's about picking your hero products. And then you can have more at the back, but really using your space to make it feel almost like an art gallery, like very, very boutique. And as you can see here, there is a real lack of unnecessary furniture as well. So only a handful of product. Couple of examples. Here we have Philip Lim. This is their first concept store in LA. And again, it's almost like a hybrid between a showroom and a gallery. It's a store, but it really feels like an art gallery. And it's particularly key for more premium brands. And another take on the minimalism, or the minimalist trend. Here we have designers really playing with sturdy materials that are normally used for constructions, so concrete, but also plaster, plywood. And again, a lot of retailers are getting quite creative with it, and also quite environmental. For example, we have Aesop in LA, which you can see at the bottom right. And it features these walls consisting of rolls of recycled papers, paper cardboard. And so, again, it has a sustainable ethos to it, but then at the same time, it looks a little bit different. And this can be reached with really, really kind of entry price points as well. It doesn't have to be expensive. Another good example is Valextra. This is the Valextra store on the left. So we have these rough concrete fixtures that are juxtaposed. So again, they have this really beautiful leather, luxurious leather products. So that visual contrast, it's really, really quite strong. And also this obviously taps into sustainability themes, which I know how important they are, particularly for the newer generation. They really care about it. So another thing to keep in mind. And research has actually shown that plants, they make us happier. How do they make us happier? Obviously, visually, they look amazing. They remind us of nature. But they also really help purifying the air. So it results in reducing stress levels and also boosting our mood. So if you can introduce living plants into your store space, then do so and think about plants that have benefits, such as anti-anxiety benefits. There is such a thing. And also air purifying plants, like bamboo is one of them, lavender, jasmine, rubber plant, aloe vera. So it's really like looking at the properties. So it's not just for decoration, but really think about the properties that these plants can offer. And also this trend will appeal to the plant-obsessed millennials. Millennials just love their succulent. They love plants, so it's, again, really quite visual. And also, natural elements are a really nice way to break up the more minimalist aesthetic. So it adds that warmth to it, even to a really kind of clean space and stark space. It adds that kind of homely feel to it. And talking about homely feel, here we can see, if there is one trend that really encapsulates the idea of serene comfort really well is residential retail. It's a trend that's been emerging for a while, and it's about really laying out your store as if it was an apartment, as if it was a home. And so it's really about creating this homely space where it's not just about the aesthetic, but it's also think about creating a community space where people can just come and hang out and work and play and try products. So they don't just come in to shop, they actually come in to spend time in your store and really experience the lifestyle that the brand has to offer and the brand stands for. And so, yeah, it's really about creating these gathering spaces where people just come. It's not just about shopping, but people can just spend time together. There are plenty of examples. One of them is skincare brand Neom Organics. So they offer this series of well-being schools in their own stores. And so what it is, they offer this experience. They offer these workshops. Customers receive a 30-minute consultation with a neomologist, which I suppose is a fancy name for a shop assistant. But they offer this a scent discovery test to find out their underlying wellness problems. So again, it's really looking, it's not just about their skincare, but they're really tapping into the wellness trend or topic as well. And so they can give them recommendations on small steps and how they can really improve their well-being. And of course, all of it is in a comfortable, homely setting. So, some of the key takeaways for serene comfort: create subdued and unobstructed product display. Again, create that space, let the product breathe. Use colorless design, anxiety-reducing tones, and hyper-curated product. So again, it's really about reducing any visual noise and any distraction. Bring nature in with natural light, but also with plants, foliage, again, for that mood-boosting feel. And again, remember, although it's minimal, you really want to kind of have a very inviting and comfortable environment. So it's not about, like we've seen in the past, having these really, really minimal and stark environments. It's really balancing the two that's really, really crucial. And finally, create a lifestyle space that replicates the comfort of the home. So it's really, again, about, because we know that brick and mortar is suffering a little bit. A lot of retailers are closing down, and we know that there is a bit of an apocalypse going on in the US, but physical spaces are still, everyone can say what they want, but they are still very important. But it's really about enhancing that experience. There needs to be a reason, an extra reason to come in store. So moving on to our final section, which is interactive play. This trend is largely driven by a growing consumer desire to indulge in fantasy, fun, imagination. Really, it's about escapism. It's about escaping from the reality, from the chaos of everyday life. It's a fact. Again, I don't have to tell you about the current political situation everywhere, about machines taking over our lives, about social media and completely taking over our lives. So there is this real sense of like wanting to escape. And this is like, we have the meditative, the serene comfort, but at the same time, we do have this idea of customers wanting to really experience something. We're increasingly looking for experiences and moments through, to really create fun memories. And so soon, we've been talking about the experience economy for quite a while, and this is going to continue, but soon it will actually be about the immersive economy. So we want more. We don't just want experience, we want actually sensorial experiences as well. And also, it's fair to say that childhood nostalgia is being reinforced a little bit by a lot of millennials entering parenthood, becoming parents. So, chroma installations. There is a little video, I'm just going to talk over it. But we have all these interactive light displays. They're a really good way to engage with your consumer, and they're very innovative and playful. As I was saying, consumers are demanding for experiences that enter the sensory space a lot more. So stuff like that is very useful. Here we have this video from House of Vans in London. They created this immersive light and play exhibition. So visitors were really invited to explore color and perception through all these interactive displays. So psychedelic lights, self-animating ball pits. Again, it was just this idea of bringing this playful and sensorial element with lighting and sound, et cetera, into it. And Chanel's latest interactive pop-up beauty stores, they mimic Japan's arcade halls. They're really, really popular in Japan for any of you who's been. And they have been rolled out in cities such as, predominantly in Asia, so Tokyo, Shanghai, Singapore, Bangkok. They also had one in Moscow at the Tsum department store. I was there last August, and I spent quite a lot of time. I almost missed my flight. They really know how to keep you in store. They have all this selection of really fun games. They're reminiscent of an arcade, so from bubble claw cages to video games, and you can win makeup prizes. So again, they give you tokens, and you can really play and spend a lot of time in it. And this was particularly effective in Asia across the younger demographic. You can just see a little example of how it was. But again, it looks like an 80s arcade, and you can just kind of play, and it's quite a nice, welcoming space with a lot of lovely ladies that come and give you tokens, so you can play and play and play, and then you win little samples, and of course, you have the samples, and then you want to buy the product. So it's just marketing. We then have product testing. So customers also want to be entertained. They want to be educated while interacting with physical products. Nike is a retailer that does this really, really well. This is their new store in New York, Soho. And what's interesting here is that shoppers can really test the product in real life, in a real life sport environment. So, for example, runners can hit the treadmill, but at the same time you have these massive screens, so you are actually feeling, it's almost like AR, augmented reality. You feel like you're running through Central Park, but really you are just in the Nike store. You can play basketball or soccer in full-size courts while trying out potential new shoes, and also with these kinetic sensors capturing all your personal performance data. So for those customers that are really uber competitive, you can even save the data. So you have your training data, so then when you come back next time, everything is saved for you. And so again, this is a really good way to create loyalty, not just around the product, but also around the brand and around the physical space. So you have customers coming back and back again. And so it shows how the right technology can help create a more personal experience. So it's really about, again, if you saw our presentation yesterday, one of our macro trends is designing emotions. And designing emotions is very much about combining the two, combining technology and using it in a more responsible and emotional way. So this is really the ultimate try before you buy. And of course, when we mention play, we have nostalgic gaming. It's another really important trend for it. Nostalgia marketing has been quite big. A lot of brands have been tapping into it. I mean, we all love a little bit of a blast from the past. We can't deny that. Nostalgia has been a key feeling that retailers and brands have been tapping into. Also, these playful elements are really quite big on social media. They look really well for visuals. A couple of examples. We have the Elan store in Seoul. We have these ball pits displays that consumers have to walk through in order to reach the product. And then Sephora in Barcelona and Printemps shopping center in Shanghai. They feature slides all over the store. So again, you can actually go on the slides, but again, it creates this really playful and fun environment. And here is another example of immersive art. I'm going to play the video and I'll talk over it. But it's this extremely sophisticated display that almost feels like an art installation. So this one in particular is by COS. They work together with design studio Snarkitecture. And this was an exhibition in Seoul, in their store in Seoul. And it consisted of 100,000 marbles running along these intricately patterned tracks. And so visitors could pick up the marbles, play with them, put them anywhere back on the track. They were really kind of encouraged to, the whole idea was to really kind of go back to this idea of when they were children and they were playing with marbles. So again, think back, explore and reflect. Of course, this is an exhibition, but again, it's not a store fixture, but you can really think about it for your pop-ups and temporary installation, and it's just really very beautiful. And then this is a more extreme example of immersive art with this deconstructed spaces. So some retailers are really taking it to the extreme here. They are intentionally creating these deconstructed or smashed up interiors to really make quite a unique statement, to really stand out. So this method can range from floor made up of broken mirrors, but also dramatic interpretations like smashed bricks and broken tiles. So again, it taps into that idea of imperfection, of realness, of something raw as well. Again, if you saw the presentation yesterday, we talked about that quite extensively. And here are a few more examples on how you can play and get creative designing your spaces. So you can really take a graphical approach and really play with both your interiors and exteriors. Think about enlarging graphics to like this kind of larger-than-life size, and almost like create this story, making customers almost like feeling that they're entering a storybook. On the left, we have Camille Walalas. She's quite famous. She's got his signature graphics. These ones in particular are in Brooklyn. And then on the bottom right, we have Chocolato Bakery Boutique in Monterrey, Mexico. And you can really see how a single statement table leg can make such an impact. It's so effective in a really fun and easy way. And mind-bending optical illusions are another really fun way to bring in that immersive experience, and also to really help customers interacting with products in a bit more of a different way. So this can be achieved in many ways: clever print and pattern mixing, but as well as, think about floor-to-walls overlays, which have almost been designed to look warped. And yeah, it's a really good kind of easy statement. So it's really about tapping into these graphics. A couple of examples: Adidas pop-up exhibition. So they really played, they had, for the de-wrapped shoes, they really mimicked the shoe, which is this kind of gridded design element. And they replicated it, they enlarged it, and they made it as a background. And on the bottom right, Tobias Rehenberg's Optical Illusion exhibition that really played with tricking the eye. So it's an art exhibition, but it really offers inspiration. You can see how that can work in store, and it can be quite easily replicated. And also, think about playing the eyes, tricking the eye with this perspective and depth perception. So it's really about creating the illusion of more space for smaller stores in particular, so they look a lot bigger, but also just to draw the attention of the customers in. So distorting the spatial environment, think about infinity rooms, relief effect, symmetry, asymmetry. And again, it's really about creating this very dynamic and modern shopping environment. And so some of the key takeaways for this last section. So time is commodity for the modern customer. So again, really you need to think about enriching their shopping experience with pleasurable moments. So again, it's about dare to take a step back from the product. I know the product is the most important thing because this is what you're selling, but it's really about creating this memorable experience around it and being able to do that. Introduce playground fixtures and gamified experiences that, again, they really kind of recall those childhood memories. So invite customers to play, interact, record, and ultimately share as well. Distort reality by playing with perceptions, optical illusions, graphic elements. You really want to create this mesmerizing environment where they can come into. And finally, use an artful approach to your VM curation. So it's really about showcasing not just your product, but your brand message, which goes beyond the product. And this is it from me. Thank you so much, everybody. I don't know if we have time for questions. If we do, please go ahead. I'm here. I can reply in both English and Italian. Thank you very much.